Hey there, gamers. Yeah, not. I haven't been doing well. So that's the thing. But also, do you remember like Lightlark? Do you remember Lightlark by any chance? Do you remember Nightbane? Anyways, there's a third one of these. I was not really sure if I was going to do just an off the cuff discussion of it, because there's really not much to say. But I thought I would anyways, because you know what? I've sort of signed myself into this blood pact with Alex Astor. She doesn't know about it, and I don't need her to know about it. But we're in a sort of, blood pack situation where when she's putting out a book, I guess I'm going to read it. And when I say she's putting out a book and I'm going to read it, I don't just mean like book 3 of Lightlark. I mean, there's going to be more than 3 books in Lightlark. It was already a possibility. It was something that was kind of suggested by the fact it's never really been called the Lightlark trilogy. It's always been called the Lightlark saga. But with book 3, having been announced and the little blurb up on Amazon now, yeah, no, it's not the conclusion to the series. There's going to be at least another book. And frankly, God knows how many books, because it really doesn't set itself up to be like, the penultimate chapter here. We have absolutely no idea how long this could go on for. And that's also very interesting to me because I said this before when I was discussing Nightbane, book 2 of Lightlark. Lightlark sold very well because of the hype, the drama, the scandal, whatever you want to call it. Book 2 has sold apparently well. I mean, you really can't use bestseller lists as actually an indicator of selling, which sounds really weird to say, but it's true. It doesn't really necessarily mean. It means it's done okay, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily like a worldwide seller. And definitely when you look at things like the Goodreads interaction, for example, the amount of reviews on one compared to the other one, yeah, I mean, Lightlark sort of was sold and happened because of hype and drama. Nightbane, a lot less of that. And as we approach book 3, a lot less of that. And when we get to book 4, I don't really know who's going to be there. I feel like I'm already like the last person standing in the Lightlark, just sort of dark corner of the library. Apparently, some people on the internet maybe do like it. I mean, they are likely 14, so you can't really blame them for that. But yeah, it's not exactly a series that has inspired a rabid fandom. It just sort of seems to be a series that Alex Astor brags about badly on TikTok and continues to do. So who really knows? Anyways, Lightlark, I kind of was predicting the title of it would be something really different, but Lightlark 3 is called Skyshade, which is, yeah, I mean, the most nonsensical title yet. Skyshade. I've forgotten it already. The cover this time is a lot nicer, though. I'm going to put the cover somewhere on the screen at some point. It doesn't have a weird little deformed baby head. It has a snake. It has many snakes. YA loves snakes. What you can say is that it's not that one snake that's on the cover of every YA book, or at least was in about 2017. It's a different stock photo of a snake this time. The other thing to remark about it is that its anatomy is questionable, mysterious, in fact. It has 2 tails, or 2 bodies, really. It's not really indicative of having 2 tails by how it's set up. It sort of looks like it's meant to be 2 snakes intertwined, but there's only 1 head, and it raises a lot of questions in what's going on there. But, it's a prettier cover. I like the little snow globe situation here. This must be, of course, one of the very famous orbs that was introduced in Nightbane, in that there was a singular chapter in Nightbane where Isla, Isla, where Isla returned to Celeste, her old friend's house, and she saw a bunch of orbs. This was the first mention of orbs we ever had, and she was like, oh my god, I'm angry about my friend. Yeah, fair enough on her on that. She just started smashing these orbs, and there was a line like, the orbs contained things, and we didn't get any explanation about that. And that was it. That was the only mention or explanation of orbs. We literally learned absolutely nothing. There was like a feather in one of them that she picked up and put in her pocket, and it was never addressed again. It was some of the most clumsy, shoehorned in, just sort of, this is going to be important later, that actually explained nothing. And on the front cover, we do have a mysterious orb, so I assume it's orb time, baby. And I am excited for that. I'm a real orb enjoyer, generally speaking. I think orbs are one of the, well, loveliest sort of spheres that you can have, frankly. And I like the color palette on this cover. I'll say that. Nice kind of teals, purples, and other shades. No, I don't like it. But as like the low bar of the Lightlark covers, which I've generally found to be extremely ugly, Lightlark's cover is very just like, it's very indicative of a certain trend that we've seen. It's not the only YA book cover I've seen like this, where it's just a bunch of very shiny photoshopped elements kind of just awkwardly placed around in a way that isn't really that cohesive and just sort of gets by because they've made it really, really shiny. And that's sort of been the way for all of the covers of the series. What can we say? Now, Sky Shade, it's coming out November 12th. I am almost certainly going to, well, I'm gonna read it. And the fact that me reading it involves me having to likely buy it, we'll see how I am in November, doesn't thrill me. I don't think it's a good thing for me to be buying this book, but it's also so difficult to get a hold of in any other way because no one's reading it. No one is excited about this. So, I am going to read you the summary of Sky Shade, and after which we might be able to understand why I was really tempted to not make a video talking about the summary for this book, because it's perhaps, it might be the worst book blurb I've ever read, in a very specific way. Let's go, guys. The pulse-pounding third novel in the #1 New York Times best-selling series, The Lightlark Saga, by acclaimed, who's acclaiming her, author and #BookTalk sensation Alex Astor. Love kills kingdoms, ... Back in Grimm's castle on Nightshade, Isla is reeling in the wake of a brutal battle and the devastating truths it exposed. Her future and the fate of the world now hinge on a heart split in two. Past Isla, who fell in love with the ruler of Nightshade, fights to resist feelings she considers treasonous. The Isla of the present, who has seen the ruin her powers can cause, will do anything to save Lightlark and its king. As the line between enemy and friend is tested, Isla is more desperate than ever to understand the Oracle's final prophecy and change her heart-rending fate. But a storm is coming, and with it, a long-buried evil greater than anything the realms have faced before. With the clock ticking on her destiny and the survival of 2 warring kingdoms hinging on her own shattered heart, Isla Crown will either save the world or destroy it. Yeah, it's a really bad book blurb. I read, I was about to say, I read book blurbs, don't we all? Who am I to say? I've read a number of book blurbs. I've read a number of book blurbs for good books and bad books and thought about them. What a weird thing that I'm putting there like it's a credential. But I really hate this book blurb because you might have noticed this. It doesn't introduce a single new plot thread. There is not a single detail in the Sky Shade summary that isn't already just known from Nightbane or a full rehash of things from Nightbane. I mean, there was more details in last book's summary. I just pulled it up really quickly, which is why I was slightly distracted in my rambling because I had to just kind of sneakily type it. Let's see here. As certain death races toward Lightlark and secrets from the past begin to unravel, Isla must weigh the responsibility for her people against the whims of the most dangerous traitor of all, her heart. In the wake of a crushing, betrayal, they still have seductive haunts on here. So I just pulled up the Amazon thing, and it still says Lightlark's seductive haunts, which I would have thought that after my epic campaign, somebody would have fixed that, but okay. Yeah, so... delving more deeply into Isla's memories of her past as her future hurtles towards 2 possible fates. And you know what's going to happen in Sky Shade? Isla's heart is going to be torn, and her future is going to be decided by which boy she chooses, and the future of the world also depends on which boy she chooses, I guess. There's nothing introduced in here. Last book there was an ancient evil. There was like Drex, there was like dragon guys. They didn't do jack. They weren't a threat of any kind. Yeah, there's I'm finding so little to talk about in terms of this summary. It truly is just Isla in the past and the present is torn in two different directions, and there's problems. You know that there was a war threat last book? There's a war threat again. Having read and knowing Nightbane, it's a different war threat, but not really, because last time the threat was Grimm's gonna come over and do war, and this time the threat is Grimm's coming over and he's doing war. The difference is that this time Isla is going to be with Grimm, but actually we don't really get a lot of mentions of Grimm or anything about that. I have heard that Aster is talking about this book and has said that this is like, get ready for Isla's villain era, and that is some of the funniest, like, my only image in my mind is like the Disney descendant, sort of the Disney villain, not even Disney villain because those guys are cool. I mean like the Disney descendants, those kids who like, my dad was an evil guy and so I dress a bit edgy but I'm just going to high school. That's sort of the level that Isla operates on for me. The hint already was that like Isla was going to go a little bit on like an evil path. At the end of Nightbane, she realizes that she accidentally genocided a village once, and she was kind of upset about that. Fair enough, girl. But then, in this book, it just sort of says she's reeling, she's having some trouble, and the Isla of the present, who has seen the ruin her powers can cause, will do anything to save Lightlark and its king. Does that sound like a villain era to you? That just sounds like it's more Isla being indecisive and a bit mopey, maybe, and being like, oh, Grimm's so sexy. Oh no, Oro, he's nice. And that's exactly what we've had for 2 books now. It's kind of the thing that I have with Lightlark and my eternal, I don't know, bond connection that I have formed now with my decision to just sort of, I'm going to do a full review of Skyshade. No one might care, but I'm going to do it. And I'll do that for every book in this friggin' series at this rate. And the thing that I guess holds me to it is how bare minimum it is. There is nothing here. It has the cadence and the storytelling of a Wattpad story, of a NaNoWriMo that you're just hurrying out there. The sequel already kind of did a couple things and barely moved the plot along. Nightbane barely edged anything forward. And it sounds like Skyshade's gonna do the exact same thing. If you're going to be doing if you're doing a series of books, the plot should progress. Big writing advice. And yet, Lightlark is here. It's probably underselling a lot, and it's still here, and it's still getting the money, it's still being published, it's still letting her just brag about how good it is when it's some of the worst writing, and we all know that, and yet it keeps happening. And there is something compelling about that, I suppose. Something. Anyways, predictions. I guess I should talk about my predictions for Skyshade, but at this point, like, the plot will probably inch forward about 5 seconds into any sort of interesting event happening, so I feel like I can nail it this time. So, Skyshade, what does the title mean? I don't know. We're probably going to hear it like 600 times about Oro or something. Maybe there's another new plant we've just invented. Maybe the original world thing that everyone came from. It's called Skyshade. I don't know. That's a bad name for a world, but it might be. Isla is going to be hanging out with Grimm. They are going to have more explicit sex because we already were really kind of like over the line a little bit, and it's just going to get more. She's gonna hang out with, like, that pet dragon that was awkwardly shoehorned in the flashbacks last book, so there's going to be, like, a dragon, because dragons are really hip with the youth these days. And, yeah, she's gonna hang out, she's gonna have sex, she's going to be a little bit emo about Oro, and be like, oh my god, but she's not she's mostly just going to be busy having sex with Grimm. I don't think she's going to be making any decisions. I don't think she's going to be committing war crimes, because nothing about her suggests that she's actually interested in war crimes, and I don't think she's in her villain saga. Especially since it's stated here her primary interest in the future is to save Oro and Lightlark, which is the enemy of Grimm and this whole war thing. So, kind of sounds heroic to me. She's gonna do that. Oro's gonna be somewhere. We're probably not gonna hear about him. Who cares? I bet that we're gonna get some more side characters. The side characters in Nightbane were all horrendously boring. I could not remember any of them, and none of them mattered. I think that from the top of my head, there was Sonic the Hedgehog, a tragic lesbian, and like a guy who died. I think the guy who died was a twin, and there was a guy who didn't die. Don't quote me on that. So we're gonna get some new characters, though, because we're gonna be hanging out in the Nightshade, castle area. And because of that, we're going to get our, even more so ripoff of, the Inner Circle, I believe it's called, from Court of Thorns and Roses. We're just gonna get that. There's going to be, a hot guy who's the general of the army. There's going to be a hot guy who's maybe the second in command of the army. There's going to be a girl who doesn't need a man, but maybe she's in a love triangle with the two hot guys. I think this is just straight up the plot of Court of Thorns and Roses, but yeah, I'm pretty sure we're just going to do that. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of really hot, sexy guys, and they're all going to be leading a nation while Isla has sex. Anyways, she's going to be thinking about Oro a lot and trying to save him, but not taking a lot of executive action on that front. She'll probably wander around secretly, maybe in disguise among the Nightshade people. Maybe we'll finally get a seductive haunt. I mean, Nightshade is the place to do it. It pretty much is, again, just the Court of Thorns and Roses, and there's gonna be an anachronistic nightclub in there. Sure. Let's see. I can't really imagine anything else happening in the plot besides that. So just skipping to the end of the plot. The thing that's hinted at here, which is hinted at the end of every book summary, is just the clock ticking on her destiny and the survival of two warring kingdoms hinging on her shattered heart. She's either going to save the world or destroy it. Now, I think that'd be too big of a status quo in many ways, but I will give the benefit of the doubt and say that at the end of Skyshade, either Oro or Grimm or Isla is gonna die. Probably Oro, honestly. And then Isla is going to open that portal to the original world, whatever that is, in an effort to save him, because apparently in the original world, people don't die or people come back from the dead. It was never clear. And so Isla is going to make a bold sacrifice of actually, I think if Oro dies, the island dies or something. They're tied together. So it might be Oro dies, Lightlark is crumbling, everything's going badly. Maybe Grimm is going to be on the back of their cool dragon and be like, hey, we can run away and it'll be fine. And Isla's gonna be like, no, I love Oro, actually. She's gonna flip-flop again. She's going to open that portal, and it will cause the destruction of all of Lightlark, and not just Lightlark the island, the whole realm of Lightlark. And then she's going to escape into that other world, carrying Oro's body, maybe. It'll be really heartbreaking for Grimm, because generally speaking, every book we have to end with one of the two boys being kind of left at the metaphorical altar as she carries somebody else off. And yeah, and then it will end on a cliffhanger, where she'll sort of arrive or step through, but we will get no further information. I expect we might get a little more lore, because there was a lot more lore in Nightbane. It didn't work together and didn't make sense. But we might get some more of that, and I'm cautiously interested to see what sort of cluster of hell that's going to be like. Let's see, is there anything else that I can predict? Oh, looking at the summary, there is a mention of past Isla who fell in love, fights to resist the feeling she considers treasonous, and then Isla of the present. And I swear to God, this implies to me that we're going to get split perspective again. It was kind of annoying in Nightbane, because it would have the past section of Isla originally meeting and falling in love with Grimm, and then the future version where she just is puttering around, vaguely preparing for war. And if we get that exact scenario again, of future Isla puttering around preparing for war, and past Isla what else can we even do? Past Isla's timeline has met up already. Like, the end of Past Isla in Nightbane was back to the present of her being, like, 18, and it was time for the... She was already 18, actually. Her being, you know, time for the Centennial Games. So... I don't know how we could get more Past Isla content, frankly. It would have to be filling in the blanks of stuff we already saw, but there was nothing left from that timeline. But the implication of the summary is actually that we may see more Past Isla, at which point we might be entering some sort of weird quantum scenario where we're going to start getting, like, the scenes between the sex scenes that she had of Grimm, where she had more sex. We're just gonna fill in the blanks, and then eventually we're gonna get, like, in the book 4, we're gonna get the scenes in between the scenes in between the scenes, until we basically can chronicle Isla's entire life. And at that point, you might as well just take all of the past scenes and publish a new separate book called, like... Oh god, what would it be called? It would be called, like, well, it's gonna start with dark. I'm gonna go with dark... Dark Heart is so bad. Dark Knight. Dark Knight, yeah, it's gonna be called Dark Knight. It's gonna be called Night, you know? Epic new book from Alex Astor, everyone's so into it. Anyways, these have been my incredible thoughts, and I am doing great. Also, the Unwind video it's coming. It's gonna be my longest video, and it's been a lot of work.